Welcome to Love Yourself, the podcast where we break down the reasons why you aren't losing weight and help you discover confidence, self-worth, and resilience all along the way. Weight loss isn't a knowledge problem, it's a thinking problem, and I'm here to show you how to lose weight with your brain, not another diet plan. So as you listen, notice what resonates with you, and if something clicks or you want to go deeper, I would love for you to book a call with me right after the episode. For the last 3 episodes, we've looked at the wreckage. We've seen how you were programmed, how our autonomy was stolen, your identity was traded for a moving target. But knowing the lie about weight loss isn't the same as being free. Today, we stop looking at the map of the trap and we start walking the pathway out. My name is Dara Thomason, and this is episode 254 from Love Yourself Thin, The Path to True Freedom, Self-Governance. Okay, so let's synthesize what we've learned in the last 3 episodes. So first of all, we talked about the blueprint. We learned that shame was planted in us historically. You aren't broken, you're programmed. The second thing we learned was the control trap. So we learned that the industry sells authority, not health. We traded our internal signals for someone else's rules. That kept on changing. And then the third was the comparison trap. We learned that good enough is a marketing slogan. So I gave the example of my not so great kitchen. All right. So what we want to talk about today, and the reason why I'm talking about self-governance is that this is where you step into your own authority. Okay. So control is external. It is loud, it's shaming, it's rigid, and it comes from a place of fear. Now, governance is internal. So it's quiet, it's steady, it's supportive, and it comes from a place of inherent worth. So let's think about control is like a prison warden, okay? So governance is more like a wise mentor. One forces you to comply, the other helps you decide what is best for you in your own life. Another example of this is from a great movie, Matilda, where she has Miss Honey, who is the sweet and demure, like super nice, kind teacher who all the children just want to do. They want to just please her. They want to be around her. She feels so loved. And then there's Miss Trunchbull, who is mean and coercive. And she has the trunky. It's like you have to go in it. It's a torture chamber. So who are you going to listen to? Now, I want you to think about this pathway of actionable steps to freedom, okay? So the first one is, how do we become free? Now, as I talk about my own story, I went from diet to shaming myself, to never feeling good enough, to finally learning that I actually could just make this difference myself, that I have 5 kids. I knew how to feed them. I knew how to take care of them. I was a school teacher. Like, how was I so good at figuring out how to take care of all these students and managing my life? And why did I feel so bad about myself and my food choices? And I didn't feel like my body was mine. And the reason is I never took responsibility for it. And I kept believing that other people knew me best, but that's a lie. Now, there's that game on TV, Are You as Smart as a 5th grader? And I think that we have gotten things way too complicated. And so really, when you think about what is actually needed to lose weight, it's actually really simple. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those 5 steps. But before we do that, I want you to think about, what do you feel completely free about? You are your own expert. You don't worry about what other people think. You just know what you know, and you live by that mantra or by those principles. So if you're a religious person, is that something that, you have this belief in, like a God or in whatever that might look like? And I want you to think about, if you have that strong belief system, or even something simple, like if you went to a store and if they gave you back, would you not feel right about taking that money that's not yours? Would you go back and say, hey, I think I owe you some money? Or what about if you're on a public transport and there's an older person there who doesn't have a chair? Is that in your moral compass to stand up and say, here, take my chair? What are your guiding principles for your life? And how does that influence the way that you show up in the world? Let's go back to this idea of governance is internal. It's quiet, it's steady, it's supportive, and it comes from a place of inherent worth. So it is your guiding, it's like your GPS. It's like the way that you show up in the world. So when you think about actionable steps to freedom, what would that look like? So let's take an example. When was the last time you ate food and you felt guilty about it? Or you felt confused or you weren't proud of yourself? So what would we do? Let's say you said, I'm not going to eat ice cream for a week. And then next thing you know, you're eating ice cream at night. So what was that about? So step one is recognizing that you buffered. I was coaching a lady the other day who has been staying up late at night scrolling. And she just feels so out of control and it feels so scary to her. I don't know why I keep doing that. So the first thing we have to do is just recognize that buffer. So when the urge to eat or scroll or shop hits, you ask this question: what emotion am I trying to avoid feeling right now? That's all. I like to say, what is the emotion that you're avoiding? What is the emotion that you don't want to process? So the second step is reclaiming your voice. So when the voice of control says you failed today, the governor says, I see you're struggling. What do you actually need right now? And then step 3 is taking 100% responsibility without shame. Explain that taking responsibility isn't about blaming yourself. It's about realizing you're the only one with the power to change the narrative. So when I think about changing and how I help my clients and the path to permanent weight loss, it is taking on that full responsibility. So the first step of permanent weight loss is weight loss science is simple. Overwhelm leads to inaction. So when you feel overwhelmed, you shut down, right? It's just too much. And it's like if you went into a room that was super messy, it's wild, but you just start in one corner. You just start with one thing and then you go to the next thing and then you go to the next thing. And so we have ghrelin, which is the hormone that tells us when we're actually hungry. We have leptin that tells us when we're satisfied. We have insulin. That's the hormone that regulates all of our sugar within our body. We have cortisol that tells us when we're stressed. And so when all of our hormones are regulated, our body will actually start functioning properly. It's like getting an oil change or getting a maintenance on our car. And then we learn how to start dining in. So we start learning to tap into our stored fat storage, right? Because our body, just like with the gas can, when you fill up your car, if your car hasn't used up all the gas, it has nowhere else to put the gas. You have to put it in a storage can. So our body is a walking storage container. So the more that we can tap into our stored fat, the more that we can lose weight. We have to make sure that our hormones are regulated and we have no insulin in our bloodstream so that we can now tap into that stored fat. Very simple. The second stage of permanent weight loss is we learn how to eat, make our own eating plan, and we troubleshoot it. So we learn about stepping on the scale every day. We look at ourselves naked. We see what's going on and we take ownership of our own actions. And then the third thing we do is we start to feel our feelings instead of eating them or shopping them or buffering in some way, staying up late. But learning how to feel our feelings and processing emotions is one of the biggest challenges this world has, especially as we talk about the manipulation and control and all of that. People didn't know how to feel their feelings. I feel sorry for someone, Oprah Winfrey, who was saying that it's not her fault that she's overweight and it's in all her genetics. The only reason we're overweight is we're putting too much food in our mouth. Do genetics play a little bit of a role? A little bit, but not that much. So genetics, they influence, but if you look at the studies and you look at really what's impacted, and I will stand by the family that you came in, the culture that you came from. If your family celebrated with food and obsessed about food the whole time and that whatever was normal, That's going to have a huge impact on your relationship with food. Now, the next thing we need to think about with permanent weight loss, and as you look at self governance, like you being free, you truly stepping into being your own authority, is how to feel your feelings instead of distracting yourself with food, distracting yourself with eating, with shopping, with overworking, watching too much TV, sleeping too much, not sleeping enough. All of those are really unhealthy, what they call maladaptive coping strategies. So the more that you can feel your feelings and allow yourself to just be with that, feelings are like a vibration in our body. They come from our thoughts. And so the more we can just process that emotion, then we don't have to have all that feedback or that pressure that comes from that. Now, if that surprises you, amazing. Because remember, when we talk about self-governance, I love this thought. Is it quiet? Is it steady? Is it supportive? And does it come from a place of inherent worthy? When you are scrolling, do you feel awesome or do you feel agitated and do you feel shame, loud, rigid, a place of fear? So really start dialing into this like internal guiding system within you, your wisdom. I love thinking about our internal wisdom. And the more that we can be our own authority, the better. The fourth step to permanent weight loss, and if you decide to take advantage of my offer and you can talk to me about your specific challenges, like what is keeping you from having your own self-governance with food? Like, why do you not step into your own wisdom? Why don't you step into your own authority? It's how to take responsibility for yourself. And really, the buck stops here. I'm in charge of me. You're in charge of you. But do you keep saying, I'm not good enough, so I can't take care of myself? Or you keep blaming your society or your mom or your family of origin or your culture for not getting results? I am the first girl in my extended family, my mom, my aunts, that finished university. My cousins, my girl cousins, my one girl cousin did. But like that wasn't common. And so take responsibility for your life. You can create whatever you want. So learning how to build that skill of taking responsibility and becoming an emotional adult is a huge piece of learning how to have governance and no longer being controlled by history. What a powerful series I've just created for you to look back and to see this blueprint of manipulation, this control trap, this perception of, am I ever going to be good enough? There's manipulating and controlling you. And we don't need that anymore. And we don't need to continue that story. We do not need to continue to listen to every influencer. Be your own influencer. And then the fifth step to permanent weight loss is building self-confidence. So many people think either you're born with it or you're not. No, we learn to build self-confidence. And just like climbing a mountain, you get to a certain level and then you have to stay on it for a while. And then you have to acclimatize to that elevation. And you have to build those muscles so that you can go to that next level of the mountain. That's what a fulfilling life looks like. You strive for something, you work hard for something, and you build that skill and you work through it. And then you arrive and it feels amazing. But humans want to keep evolving and growing. So you can rest on your laurels, but that doesn't feel great after a while. There's like that, I need to keep progressing. I need to keep moving. I need to keep challenging myself. So those people who stay stuck, who just do the same old, who live on that their life feels like Groundhog Day, that is not a successful life. That is a life of not being fulfilled. And so the more we can have self-governance, the more that we can be quiet and steady, supportive, and coming from inherent worth and challenging ourselves, that's when we get a true feeling of being alive. And then when you do that and focus on building your life this way, weight loss becomes a side effect because we're not turning to the food. We're not buffering with all of that anymore. I want you to think about this inhabited body. So your body is the only home you will ever truly own. You can spend the rest of your life trying to renovate it to please a world that can't even agree on what beautiful looks like. Or you can decide that the home is already enough and you can finally start living inside of it. I want to invite you to take advantage of my free diagnostic calls to see what your specific root of your issues are. And I love this idea. You're no longer a project, you're a person. And the more that you can become who you really are. Now, for my Christian listeners out there, C.S. Lewis I'm a real fan of C.S. Lewis. And this story, I think about this story a lot. And it's actually not a story. It's a it's a quote, and it's about it's about a house, and it talks about how he just thought he was this little sweet cottage and happy where he was. I've shared this before, but I really want to encourage you to think about this not just with weight loss. I want you to think about this in your life. Currently, I'm taking my master's degree. I haven't gone to university since 1995. I've taken a few classes here and there. It is a huge learning curve. And I want to become a therapist so I can help women with trauma. A lot of women I work with have had sexual trauma. And so losing weight actually feels really dangerous. And it can keep us stuck. But this quote really inspires me. And this is how it goes. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps you can understand what he is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you're not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in ways that hurts abominably. He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. You can take that how you want, Christian wise or not. But I believe that all of us we all have inherent worth. We are 100% worthy. We are truly magnificent. But if we're believing in all these lies, I've taken notes and notes and notes on the history of weight loss and manipulation and control. And if we keep going down that road, we will never, ever be able to become the person that we really want to be. Even just my son's wedding last summer, if I was obsessing about my body and how I looked in my dress and made it all about me, and if I wasn't a certain weight and I didn't look good in the pictures, I would have missed out on one of the most beautiful days of my life. Of watching my son and his beautiful bride being married and making those special covenants and promises to each other. I am so glad that I have done this work for myself, because a few years ago, that would have been my whole focus. So worried about what other people thought. And it's shameful and embarrassing. And it actually makes me so sad to admit how caught and how trapped I was in feeling so bad about myself. And that's a whole other topic of manipulation and control, of how do we stop people from really stepping in to their true power. And that is why I do this work. That is why I work hard at figuring out different ways of explaining what weight loss really is about. Let's not waste our time anymore with counting calories and tracking steps. It doesn't work. It's learning how to feel your feelings instead of eating them. It's learning how to forgive yourself. It's learning how to speak to yourself kindly, how to have compassion, how to have forgiveness. It's learning about being honest with yourself. It's learning how to have this self-governance. So if you want to take advantage of that offer and to have that audit of what is your relationship with you and to really step into that, I'm telling you, My program is incredible. I am so proud of the community that I have created. The women in there just blow my mind. And I want you to finally feel free. It's not your fault that you struggle. There's been a lot of wiring, decades, centuries, but you can break it. If I can break it and these women I work with can, there is no question that you can. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. As you're leaving this episode, I want you to take a moment and notice what stood out for you. What did you learn about yourself? What felt true? And where are you ready to start thinking differently? Remember, this work isn't about doing more. It's about understanding how your brain is working right now and learning how to shift it in a way that's always going to support you. And you don't have to do that alone. If you're ready to stop second guessing yourself, stop feeling stuck, and start creating real momentum in your life, I would love to help you. You can book a call with me and we'll look at what's really going on for you and what your next step can be. I'll talk to you. I can't wait to talk to you.